Welcome to TCN Talks, an Anatomy of Leadership. We continue the conversation in part 2 of Gone From My Sight. Barbara Karnes on what happens in final days of life. And now, here's Chris Como.
So as we go into this next segment, one of the things that you do brilliantly is explain dying in plain, non-clinical language. Why is it so hard, do you think, for healthcare today to speak clearly about death? And what have you learned about what families need to hear that enables you to be so poignant, so plain, so clear?
I think a key thing that families need to know is that people don't die like they do in the movies. Because what they expect is to see Judi Dench say some profound words and then she's dead. And that's not how people die. And yet we don't know except for the movies. So when mom is peeing and pooping the bed and talking to, the wallpaper and moving around, and we think something pathological is happening. We think something bad is happening because she's not dying like Judi Dench did. So education to teach and use that example. That's the exact example I will use with caregivers and families. And mom's doing a great job. This is how people die, which is gone from my sight, takes you up to through the last moment of breath. So that if we take the time to educate caregivers and family that are dealing with someone, their special person dying, we can neutralize the fear that every single one of us, even with all of our knowledge, we're going to be afraid when it comes time to die. Don't remember having done that before. And anytime we do something new, no matter how much knowledge we have, we're going to be scared, if not downright terrified. So education, that's the key. And like I said, before we need it's great, but certainly when we need it. And if we have a referral early enough, from the time the doctor says, I can't fix you, and you say, I still want treatment, so you're in palliative care, that's when you want to start giving the support and the knowledge. And then for sure, when they come on hospice, you want to support and guide and educate that family so they can get beyond the intense fear that they're going to bring and have some tools. You're giving them tools on how to live through one of life's most normal experiences. We are born, we experience, and we die. It's the name of the game. We're all going to do it.
Something's occurring to me just listening to you. Do you know Dr. Ira Byock? I'm sure you do.
Sure.
Have you and Ira ever been like, because you've spoken all over the country, have you ever found yourself, did you ever present together out of curiosity or?
We did not. No, I'm assuming he knows who I am.
I'm sure he knows who you are. Here's why I'm saying that. First off, are you familiar with Ira's book, The 4 Things That Matter Most Before Every Person Passes? It's probably one of the things I've recommended the most of friends and family. Hey, before they pass, I love you. Please forgive me. I forgive you. And thank you. If you could articulate those 4 things, if they get mirrored back, that's awesome. But if you could articulate that, and, Dr. Byock is pushed the field of hospice and palliative care. Like there's a whole evidence-based medicine. And so he represents that. But I find the thing people remember him the most for is the 4 things. Whereas I feel like you're bringing us back to the beauty, the simplicity of this beautiful thing that we get to be Sherpas, shepherds, part of that process. Does that feel accurate to you, or would you say any of that differently?
I would not. You just said it beautifully, because that's what my wish for every person in the world is, that they will have at the time of their death, that their caregivers and their loved ones can know how to say goodbye and to be able to live with their grief, because grief's another whole topic. But I think the more profound and involved a caregiver and family is with the moment of death, then that emotion is stabilized. Maybe.
I was going to say the sting is not as bad. Maybe.
Yeah, I like that. The sting is not as bad as we learn how to live without this person in our life. It's when we've had a bad experience with our special person dying. And often that's because of lack of support and education. But when we have that bad experience, oftentimes people carry that memory, the bad memory, with them forever. And that just, that doesn't have to be like that.
No, that's why we're doing this work, right? Or is why we should be doing this work. There's some elements in our field that turned it into a business and a racket, but this is the true essence. We're at the true point of what this work is supposed to be about. You alluded to this, but I didn't even ask you this when we first met. How many other languages has it been translated into? And do you know what your sales are outside of the United States? And who's buying them? Are people just buying it as a resource, or is it palliative care associations in other countries?
Other countries, I think there's 12 languages that it's translated into. Problem. And yes, we sell all over the world, but the problem, shipping, cost of shipping. So that's a challenge. But we've had, daughters here from Australia. Australia orders quite a bit, actually. But I think it started, I'm not sure. Anyway, daughters here from Australia, mom dies. She takes 100 Gone from My Sight back with her. So you can bypass that's the challenge. Yeah.
So one of the most painful, maybe misunderstood experiences for families is when they're watching their loved ones stop eating and drinking. You have taught for years that the rules for food at the end of life are very different, very unique when someone, as opposed to maybe someone who's expected to recover. So how do you help families understand what's happening and how not to interpret this as we're starving them? How do you walk them through that?
Well, education, Gone from My Sight. But here's the thing. In the months before death, and I can't say strongly enough, never put a number on how long someone has to live. We cannot be so specific as to say 6 months, 3 weeks. We can't do that. We can go months, weeks, days, and hours. In the months before death, you're going to see 3 things start happening. Person's eating habits change, person's sleeping habits change, and their socialization changes. Now, we talked earlier about birth and death and that they're opposite ends of the life spectrum. Think of birth. A baby gets into this world through labor, works hard to get here. First thing he gets is water, then milk, then soft pablum kind of stuff, soft foods, and gradually they get to regular foods. Same with sleep. Get here, sleep all the time, then gradually they're awake more and more until they're in their active life pattern. Socialization. First, it's nobody because they're still trying to wake up. Then it's mom. Then it's family. Then it's neighbors. Then it's a community. And then it's the world. Now, turn that around. In the months before death, from disease, for old age, it takes longer. But from disease, 3 to 4 months before death occurs, a person's eating habits change. They stop eating meat. Then it goes to fruits and vegetables and soft foods. Then you're doing good to get in Sure Plus, liquid down them, and then water. Sleeping. First, it's a nap in the afternoon. I'm just so tired. Months before death. And then they reach a point where they're asleep more than they're awake. And then they're asleep. They're non-responsive. Socialization starts off with, don't have the church ladies come over. I'm too tired. And then it's, don't have the grandkids come over. They make me nervous. And then we go completely within. So you can see the natural progression of leaving this world is exactly like how we got into it. We are born, we experience, and we die. Full circle.
That's great. Such wisdom. Another fear that we hear in patient family surveys is around the whole pain medication thing. Families worrying about morphine, comfort meds, that it's actually speeding up death. How do you explain the difference between comfort-focused pain management, pain medication at the end of life versus treatment that's aimed at a cure? And what would you want families, even clinicians, to understand about that distinction?
Dying is not painful. Disease causes pain. If pain is not an issue, then when labor begins, 1 to 3 weeks generally, the body may feel tired, ache all over, kind of like if you have the flu. Well, you wouldn't take a narcotic if you had the flu, but you could take a couple ibuprofen, couple Advil, and that would bring a little comfort, okay, if pain is part of the disease process, then you're going to treat that pain until the last breath. Because just because a person's non-responsive doesn't mean the pain's not there. The pain, if it's part of the disease process, will increase as the disease progresses. It's the disease that's causing the pain as it works on the body. So that pain is going to increase. So you've got to increase the pain medicine. The thing is, we have to teach our families about end-of-life pain management. We have to teach our families about appropriate use of morphine. Because weekly, I get emails saying hospice killed my mom. And it's because she was dying and they overdosed her and she died. It's their fault. That tells me there wasn't enough education. That tells me that there wasn't enough contact with the family. And that's so sad. I mean, it's just, that says we didn't do our job.
Barbara, you're reminding me, listening to you talk years ago, one of my mentors said that perfect hospice nurse is a combination of a great nurse and a school teacher rolled into one. And I'm looking at you going, oh my God, she's like the poster child. You just have that, you remind me of a couple of my favorite teachers. And just, you have a great teaching ability about you. So I feel like you're the poster child for that. Exactly. Nurse meets a teacher.
Thank you.
Which maybe is a good segue to the last couple questions. If you could put one message in the heart and mind of every hospice nurse, social worker, chaplain, CEOs that are listening, especially at a time when hospice is facing scrutiny change. And there's some people fearful about what the future of hospice is. What would you want them to remember about what hospice is truly here to do?
It's not about procedures. It's not about medicine. It's not even about the regs. It's about a human being that is traveling one of the most significant parts of their life. And we are blessed and have the opportunity to support and guide them during this incredible, sacred time. And yet we're getting sidetracked. We're getting caught up in the money and in the regs. And it's about the people. And it makes me want to cry because we're losing our focus. Now, I will also say there are ways to address this and change. And in my mind, and I appreciate time is a big thing. And that's probably the main reason that family is alone at the moment of death, because hospice doesn't have the time or the employees to let them be there for hours and hours or sleep on the floor like I did. I understand that. But end of life doulas, you can work them into hospice and into being with the family at the moment of death. Put them on salary instead of hourly. And introduce them to the family and then say, this person is going to be with you when mom is leaving this world in the hours. And here's what you do. And you tell them. And then they're not alone when mom dies. We can figure it out to get back to being there. That doesn't diminish our teaching. It doesn't diminish the visits that we make in the hopefully months before death. It's just that at that moment of death, in those hours, families aren't going to remember our teaching. We need the conductor. And that could be, if it can't be our nursing staff for whatever reason, we can teach, we can use doulas, we can teach. Some hospices are teaching volunteers. And it isn't a medical event. It's an emotional, spiritual event.
So when you said invisible conductor in the beginning, I guess I maybe misinterpreted. That mean like your teaching materials and all of our wonderful work could prepare them that the conductor is there, but they're invisible because all the preparation. Am I misinterpreting? Because it sounds like you're very much advocating you still need to have the conductor in the room. They themselves should just be invisible.
Yes, exactly. Exactly, in that there should be someone in the room who is the conductor, but acts like they're invisible. But there's healing tools that can be done and offered only in the hours before death when the person is non-responsive. It's a lot easier to talk to someone who's not going to argue back with you. And in those hours before death, that conductor can get each person there to go in alone and talk to the person that's dying. Talk about the good times. Talk about the challenging times. Talk about the hard times. The person that's dying has been reviewing their life since the moment of diagnosis. But life is like a billion-piece jigsaw puzzle, and they're putting those pieces together. And by going in and saying, Dad, I wanted to be closer to you and we just didn't get there. That's another piece of Dad's puzzle that he's got. So the conductor, gets each person to go in and say goodbye, guides them through the moment of death. Okay, Dad's going to take another breath. He's probably going to move and, oh yeah, that spit coming out of his mouth. Yeah, that's nothing to worry about. His eyes are, you reaffirm Dad's doing a good job. Then that person who's there, that conductor, says, how about everyone go out in the living room, sit there, maybe put the coffee pot on. I'm going to tidy up in here. And you tidy up the room, turn out the big ceiling lights, have a light on, and go back out and say, before we call the funeral home, how about each one of you go in and say goodbye to Dad? We recognized him through his body. Go say goodbye and let each person go say goodbye. Then call the funeral home. See why we're talking hours here. Then call the funeral home. When the funeral home arrives, you say, you guys stay here. I'm going to be your representative and I'm going to go in while they put Dad on the cart. You can walk out to the van with him if you want to. So while the funeral home people are lifting that body, you're going to make that bed. And that may be a blanket, that may be a bedspread. You put the pillow there, you make the bed, and then put something special on the pillow. Hospices would be smart if they did this and had their own special gift to put on pillows. But I've taken pictures off the walls. I put a flower out of a flower pot. Put something, because rooms have memories. And you want the people to see that room the first time after Dad is gone as its own little memorial, as its own little sacred space, because they're going to carry that first memory of that room with them forever also. So our work in healing doesn't just end when the person dies, because the family and the caregivers are part of who we're healing also. And we can really start that grieving process off on a gentle foot.
What final thoughts do you have, Barbara?
That was probably my final.
It was really good. But just any other final thoughts you'd like to share with our listeners? You are often I tell our guests they're a treasure. You're a special treasure.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. End of life work is spiritual work. It's heart-driven work. It's a calling. And we, in the business administration end of it, need to not lose focus on what our job is, why we're doing what we're doing. Every single person that work right down, I won't say down, right to the secretary, needs to have an orientation just like you'd give your volunteers, so that every single person working for a hospice has that heart-driven understanding of why they're there.
That's a mic drop right there. Thank you, Barbara. You're a true gift, a true treasure. Thank you for taking time. And thank you for the work that you continue to do. Continue to your amazing daughters that work alongside you. You're doing great work.
Oh, thank you. And you're doing great work also getting this information out. And I thank you for that, Chris.
You bet. Well, to our listeners, we appreciate you. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. And also at the end of each episode, we always want to share a quote, a visual. The idea is it creates a brain bookmark, a thought prodder about our podcast subject just to further your learning and growth and thereby your leadership. What we're going for is for it to stick. Be sure to subscribe to our channel. We don't want you to miss an episode. This is one we really want you to pay forward. Your coworkers, your friends. It doesn't even have to be people in the hospice and palliative care space. There's so much wisdom that Barbara shared with us. If you're interested in my book, you can check it out on Amazon, The Anatomy of Leadership. We're going to have some great links that Barbara's team shared with us that you could get. She has more than just Gone From My Sight, many of her educational resources. So we're going to share that with you. You know, it's easy for all of us to rail against the world and be frustrated by things. Let's be the change that we wish to see in the world. So thanks for listening to today's podcast. And here's our brain bookmark to close today's show.
This episode is a reminder that hospice is not a business model. It is a sacred privilege. We are not simply managing symptoms. We are guiding families through one of life's most profound transitions. Let us be conductors by Barbara Karnes. Thank you, USI, for sponsoring this podcast.